What does it actually take for someone to just completely change direction? I mean, a total 180, especially going from being, say, an active persecutor to, well, a deeply devoted follower. Welcome to the deep dive.
Today, we're really digging into a profound story, maybe two stories intertwined, actually, all about transformation, faith, and conviction. We're looking at two figures whose lives really did shape history.
Yeah.
One whose death sparked something incredible, and another whose own conversion, well, it changed the world. And we've got some fascinating insights from persecutor to apostle, the transformations of Saul and Paul to help guide us through this.
Absolutely. And our mission here for you listening isn't just to retell an old story. What's really compelling is how these accounts, they do more than just narrate events. They tap into some universal truths about change, about belief, and the sheer power of conviction, even when facing the ultimate price. We want to pull out those powerful nuggets for you. Exactly. So let's unpack this. It's quite a journey. We start with a man known first as Saul. And before he became the figure many know, Saul was, maybe surprisingly to some, a major opponent of the early Jesus movement.
Yeah, and not just someone who disagreed. The sources paint him as deeply, actively involved in persecuting those early believers. He wasn't just standing by. He was really committed to stopping this new faith.
Right, a serious adversary. And this deep opposition leads us to a really key and frankly heartbreaking event. The martyrdom of Stephen.
Stephen, yeah.
Yeah.
Described as full of grace, doing wonders. But he gets dragged before the authorities, falsely accused. Instead of just defending himself, he gives this powerful speech proclaiming Jesus.
Which, as you can imagine, didn't go over well.
Not at all. The sources say they were furious, dragged him out of the city, stoned him, and right there, in that moment, is where Saul comes back into the picture.
He was there.
He was absolutely there. And critically, not just as a passive observer. The account stressed that he consented to Stephen's death. He was even holding the coats for the people throwing the stones.
Wow. So he was actively participating, condoning it.
Fully involved.
Yeah.
Witnessing the brutality of it all firsthand.
And amidst that horror, Stephen's reaction is, well, it's extraordinary. Looking up to heaven, the source says his face was shining, and he prays, not for revenge, but for forgiveness.
Right. Lord, do not hold this sin against them.
Yeah.
That part just stops you in your tracks.
It really does.
And here's where it gets, I think, really fascinating from a psychological perspective. Put yourself in Saul's shoes for a second. You're the persecutor. You're facilitating this execution, totally convinced you're right. And then the person you see as a threat, as a blasphemer, shows this incredible courage and prays for your forgiveness, essentially. The source mentions a mix of emotions stirring in Saul.
I can only imagine.
What kind of internal conflict does that spark? What seed does that kind of radical grace plant? It has to challenge everything he thought he knew, right?
Yeah.
He's laying some serious groundwork, maybe subconsciously at first, for what comes next.
That makes sense. It must have planted a seed of doubt or at least confusion, which brings us to the road to Damascus. Saul is still on his mission, heading there to arrest more believers.
Still zealous, still pursuing them.
And then, bam! Something completely unexpected happens. A light from heaven, blindingly bright.
Brighter than the sun, the accounts say, knocks him right off his horse, flat on the ground. And then a voice. Direct, personal.
Saul, why are you persecuting me? Not why you're persecuting my followers, but me.
Exactly. It collapses that distance. The voice identifies itself as Jesus. It's a direct confrontation. You're not just fighting people, you're fighting me.
That's incredibly powerful.
It really is. And it begs the question, what kind of experience can just instantly flip someone's entire worldview like that? Someone so committed to their previous path.
Yeah, because the transformation seems immediate.
Utterly. The source says, in that instant, Saul was transformed into a man of God. And that's when his name changes. From Saul the persecutor to Paul the apostle. It's not just a new name, it's a whole new identity, a new purpose.
A complete reversal.
Driven by something undeniable, something overwhelming. It shows that sometimes transformation isn't a slow dawning, it's a sudden, life-altering event.
And with that new identity came this huge new mission. The persecutor becomes the arguably most influential apostle, spreading the gospel.
And not just locally. His missionary journeys were extensive, weren't they?
Absolutely. Across Asia Minor, modern Turkey, into Greece, eventually all the way to Rome, planting churches, writing letters, shaping the theology of early Christianity, just incredible reach and impact.
And if we sort of connect the dots back, The source explicitly calls Stephen's martyrdom a turning point in Paul's life.
Okay. So it wasn't just the Damascus Road, but Stephen's death played a key role before that.
It seems so. That courage, that faith, Stephen's forgiveness, it became a model. The source literally says Stephen's death gave rise to the great servant of God, Paul. It's like Stephen's final act of grace somehow fueled Paul's transformation.
That's a fascinating link. One man's sacrifice paving the way for his former persecutor's world-changing mission.
It speaks to that idea of interconnectedness, maybe even providence.
And Paul certainly carried that torch forward. The sources say he preached with that same courage and faith that he saw in Stephen. He faced immense opposition himself, didn't he?
Oh, constantly. Shipwrecks, beatings, imprisonments, plots against his life. The list goes on, but he just kept going.
Until the very end. Like Stephen, Paul ultimately gave his life for his faith, giving his life for God, as the source puts it. His entire life became this testament to that initial transformation.
And this is where that idea of providence really comes into focus in the text. It suggests the stories of Stephen and Paul are intertwined in God's providence, and their faith endures to this day. It's presented not just as history, but as part of a larger divine narrative.
A tapestry woven together.
Exactly. That even in tragedy, maybe especially in tragedy, there's a purpose unfolding that we might not see immediately. Their stories still speak to us because they embody that enduring faith.
Now, we do need to acknowledge the sorrow here. These deaths, Stephen's and Paul's, they are described as heartbreaking in the source material.
Understandably so. Sacrifice is painful.
And the source points out that this dynamic isn't just ancient history. It mentions that evil forces mock their martyrdom and even persecute living believers. It defines martyrdom as how the people of God are killed for their faith.
Right. It draws a line from the past to the present.
And just to be clear for our listeners, the source uses a specific contemporary example here, saying, just as we saw with Charlie Kirk recently. We're just reporting what the source includes to illustrate its point about ongoing persecution or mocking of faith. We're not commenting on the example itself, just noting its inclusion in the text.
And it's a stark reminder of that ongoing tension. But importantly, the source immediately follows that by emphasizing the other side of the coin. The message to never forget that God's providence and power are at work. God is alive, and he is showing us his works. It frames the suffering within a larger context of divine action and ultimate hope.
That connects to the parallel drawn with Jesus himself, right?
Yes.
His death, his resurrection conquering death, his ascension.
Precisely. That whole narrative is presented as a promise that, as the source says, we too will experience these things. We face death, yes, but through faith, there's the promise of eternal life. It reframes the ultimate sacrifice.
So death isn't the final word in this framework.
Not at all. It's positioned as a transition based on that belief in resurrection.
So bringing this all together, what's the core takeaway for someone listening right now?
Well, the source boiled it down to a really profound point about control. It states, very directly, we do not control our own lives, and we should never take someone else's life. Only God has control over our lives.
That's a powerful statement.
It is. It urges this perspective of humility, a deep respect for life, and acknowledging something larger than ourselves guiding things. It takes these epic stories of Stephen and Paul and brings them right down to a fundamental principle for how we live and view the world and each other.
So quite a journey we've traced. From Saul, the zealous persecutor, deeply affected by witnessing Stephen's martyrdom and that incredible prayer.
Right, that seed being planted.
To the dramatic Damascus Road encounter, the transformation into Paul the Apostle, spreading the message tirelessly, facing hardship with courage, and finally making his own sacrifice. It's an amazing arc.
It really is. And the source material, as we've seen, it offers more than just history. It's a commentary on faith, finding purpose, even in the midst of suffering, and this underlying belief in divine providence and eternal life, all tied together through these lives.
It shows how interconnected things can be, even across tragedy.
Definitely. It suggests that even when things look bleak, there might be a larger pattern, a deeper purpose unfolding, that individual acts of courage and faith can ripple outwards in ways we can't even imagine.
Which leaves us with a final thought, perhaps. If one man's dying prayer could lodge itself so deeply in his persecutor's heart that it eventually helped transform him into a figure who changed the world, well, what hidden transformations might be happening around us right now? What small moments of grace or courage or even challenge might be quietly reshaping lives, setting things in motion that we might not fully grasp until much later? It makes you wonder about the unseen connections, doesn't it?